Do you feel like no one's listening to you? Have you ever felt like you were in a room full of people with opinions? You had an opinion as well. However, you had a hard time making your opinion heard? Or are you tired of feeling ignored and invisible? Like, do you have a voice, a story, a perspective that needs to be heard, but you're not sure how to stand out? If so, this episode is for you. Y'all, I've had a weekend. The past few days have been super exciting and good. And I had a couple of divine downloads that I'm super excited to share with you guys. So today is all about how to redefine yourself, how to become visible, and how to never be ignored again. How to never be ignored again. So let's get into it. So I have a coaching program called the Plant Protocol Business Accelerator, right? And this is where we help vegans package their passion into a specialized health coaching business. And every year we have an in-person event for our coaches and we get together. It's called Destination Mastermind. And every year we get together and we meet in person and we mastermind in person and we commune in person. And one year, we were talking about making content because one of the ways I teach our coaches how to have a successful coaching business is I teach them how to create content in the marketplace. So that could be on a social media channel, that could be starting a podcast, that could be a live virtual masterclass, that could be an in-person masterclass. I teach aspiring coaches how to develop a business, and we use content creation as our marketing strategy. And so this particular year, we were in Portland, Oregon, right? And I was hosting our coaches. And we were at this beautiful hotel in like the downtown Portland area. And we were masterminding. I had rented out the conference room, and it was wonderful, right? And so we were talking about content creation, and I was telling them, how to create really attractive, appealing content to attract people to them, their personal brand, and how to attract people to their business. And I'll never forget, one of my students at the time, she raised her hand and was basically expressing her resistance to creating content. And she said she just doesn't feel like anyone wants to hear what she has to say. She said she just feels like nobody wants to hear what she has to say. And I never forgot that. And of course, that led into a whole coaching session and it turned into a whole thing. But I'll never forget that she had that experience and that she said that. And it kind of opened up this space for several other people in the room to share the same sentiment and say, I feel the same way, right? I feel like I'm going to get drowned in the marketplace. I feel like nobody wants to hear what I have to say. So if you felt like that before, then you are in the right place today. If you've ever felt like, I don't think anybody wants to hear what I have to say, or you have sat in rooms, you've been around people who seem like they're smarter than you, more powerful than you, more courage than you, but you have a voice, you have a story, you have a perspective, you have an opinion, and you want to share it, but you don't necessarily have the courage or the confidence to show up and share it, then I'm about to share with you 3 ways to start doing that. So how can you redefine yourself? How can you become more visible? And how can you stop being ignored? And I'm going to share that with you through the lens of 3 short stories. And they're all kind of speaking to my last several weeks. Okay. Well, no, my last several days this week. Just very short stories that really stood out for me. And I believe will really speak to this issue of I don't feel like anybody wants to hear what I have to say, or I don't feel visible, or you've played the background so much. Maybe you've made a habit out of playing the background so much that you don't know how to play the foreground now. And we got to do something about it. So welcome to the live recording of the Plant Protocol podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Coach Lisa A. Smith. Let's get into it today, y'all. Good morning, Ujo and Malika and Stacy, Marquise. Hi, y'all. It's so good to see everyone. So we're going to get into this. I got 3 stories for you guys. So Here's the first one. So, I have, for those of you guys know, I specialize in plant based nutrition and helping people impact and optimize their health using a whole food plant based diet. So, in our signature plant based coaching program, Farm to Table, we have a kind of a suggestion, but it's kind of like a hard suggestion that I give our students on how they navigate their new plant-based social life. So how do they, go out to eat with friends and family? How do they go to holiday dinners? How do they travel? How do they go to conferences and seminars? Like, you're living a plant-based lifestyle now, and how do you do it, right? And so something super interesting happened this week in class. So this past week in Farm to Table, we were talking about just that, how to navigate your plant-based social life. And one of our, suggestions for our students is that they do something called demanding inclusion. Demanding inclusion. So what I teach individuals who are adopting a whole food plant-based diet is I teach them the importance of demanding inclusion. So that basically means, like, when you're going out, you're going to an event, friends and family, dinner, girlfriends, whatever it is, right? You, number one, have to make sure people know what your preferences are and what your needs are. So it's all about speaking up for yourself. It's all about saying, if people are choosing the place where you guys are going to have dinner or choosing an event space, it's all about saying, hey, can we choose somewhere that has options for both of us? I'm plant-based, you're not, but can we both have options, right? So it's all about demanding inclusion. It's all about letting the host know, if it's possible, to make sure you're included when it's time to eat. Okay. So we were talking about that in class this week. And two of our students in Farm to Table raised their hand to share. And one student said, well, my son's birthday is coming up and we're going to go to dinner. I told him I would take him to dinner. And he's like, Mom, I found a vegan restaurant that we can go to. And she said, she was so happy to hear him say that. But she, kind of like a knee-jerk reaction, replied and said, no, you don't have to do that. Like, no, it's your birthday. We don't have to go to a vegan restaurant. And he had to convince her, like, no, Mom, it's okay. I actually been wanting to try this restaurant, right? And, but she was trying to push back, like, no. It's okay. We don't have to go to a vegan restaurant. So she shared that. And then another student raised her hand and she said something similar. She said she's actually about to travel. I believe it's to South Africa to spend some time with a friend. And her friend knows that she's, plant-based right now, and she's living this lifestyle and trying to refrain from eating certain things. And her friend said, well, since you're eating this way, I'm actually going to reach out to a chef and have a chef come and prepare food for us, right? And same situation. My student said, she was like, no, you don't have to do that. Please don't do that. That's too much. Please don't. Like, you don't have to do that. Right. And in both of these stories, we hear a very similar reaction. And so while we teach our students to do what we call demand inclusion, the thing that both of them did during these two opportunities to be included is they rejected inclusion. They denied inclusion, right? And so two people, someone in their life tried to make space for them for their new plant-based lifestyle, and they were trying to push back on being included. And so the first way that you must use to redefine yourself, to become more visible, to stop being ignored, is you have to start taking up space. We teach our students to demand inclusion. That is a form of taking up space. And I can almost reassure you that several of you have done something similar in the past, because I think it's very interesting that sometimes when we choose to live an alternative lifestyle, something that's alternative from the mainstream, like being plant-based, right? The majority of people eat animal products, right? So when we decide to live an alternative lifestyle, like even entrepreneurship is an alternative lifestyle, right? Most people have a 9 to 5, right? Most people eat animals. Like, when you decide to live what can be considered an alternative lifestyle, oftentimes we ourselves will complain about there not being accommodations made for us. However, if we pay close attention, we also can deny inclusion even though we want to be included, right? And so in both of these stories that I just shared with you, people in their lives were trying to make space for them. And they were pushing back and saying, no, don't make space for me. It's okay. And I think we have to be very careful. We have to be very, very careful with not taking up space. Now, if you are a woman, if you are a person of color listening to this, if you are part of any type of marginalized segment in our community, I need you to take this one serious, because we don't take up enough space. Like in the world, we don't take up enough space. I remember, I've been meditating for years, y'all, like for years, right? I love meditation. And I do all types of meditation. So I remember several years ago, I was at a dancing meditation class, right? So it's literally exactly how it sounds, but it's real like free. So like it's music on, the lights are dark, and you're just supposed to dance around the room with all these strangers. Awkward, right? And so I'm at this meditation class and I noticed something about myself. And this is the moment that I got the take up space, like download. We were in this dance and meditation class and everybody's moving about the room. There's no order. There's no structure. It's just like, do whatever your body feels like doing to the music based on the vibe, whatever, right? So we're moving around this room, but I realized that I was not moving freely. I was moving based on where I thought was room for me. So meaning I would watch everybody else and try and make sure like my arms didn't go out to the side and might accidentally hit them, or making sure if I was going to turn around that there was nobody behind me. Like it was very, very difficult to freely take up space. I only took up space when I thought there was enough for me, but I didn't like let my body and everything flow. I was very, very restricted. Like I was very conscious that there were other people around and that I needed to make room for them. Right. Whereas I didn't see a lot of other people doing that, looking around to make sure that there was space. Everybody else was just taking up the space that their body and their experience needed in that moment. And that is when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not out here. If this is what I'm doing in this type of space where the space is curated for us to take up space, my God, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis? What am I doing in my career? What am I doing in my relationships? What am I doing in my friendships? Like, what am I doing in my health? Like, am I only moving as far as I think I can based on it still being enough for everybody else to get a piece of the action, right? And I think a lot of us do this. And so what happens when you spend years not taking up space, you slowly start falling into the background, and that can turn into resentment, right? That can turn into unfulfillment. That can turn into settling, right? Because we have made, a lot of us, especially again, if we're marginalized, a woman, a person of color, we have made a habit out of not taking up space. And so, number one, the very first way to start redefining yourself, if this has been you, if you're like my client in my first story who said, I don't think anybody wants to hear what I have to say, if you have historically felt invisible, if you have a voice and opinion, but you usually don't share it in certain rooms because maybe you don't feel like you're enough, or maybe you have some inferiority complex, or maybe you have some things that you're ashamed of or not proud of, you have to start taking up space. And so in the example I used with my two students in Farm to Table, someone tried to make space for them in their lives and they were denying inclusion. So how do I start doing this, Lisa? I would highly recommend you pay attention now. You become hyper aware of when people are trying to include you in things and you don't necessarily allow it to happen. Start allowing other people to make space for you, and then it will become easier for you to make space for yourself. If you want to be heard, you have to start taking up space. If you want to be visible, you have to start taking up space. And if people want to make space for you, let them. All right. So that's number one. Hey, what's up, Susan? Y'all, I got a different teacup today. I'm drinking some black tea today. So I love this teacup. I got this teacup several years ago. It was in 2020 when COVID first started. I was in Spain and I went to this gorgeous museum. And this was one of the teacups I actually bought out of the museum store. because it's designed after work that would have been similar to the work that the artist did of this museum, this structure. His name was Bowdy. Anyway, I love this teacup. It's very fragile. Okay, so that's number one. Take up space, Black women. Okay, take up space and allow people to make space for you. Okay, now let's get into number two. So a couple days ago, 2 days ago on Saturday, I was out to dinner with some friends and family, right? So we was like maybe 8 or 9 of us out to dinner. And we were all ordering food and all of those things. And one person at the table didn't like their drink, right? And they tried the drink and they didn't really care for it. And, they just let it be. And so I was like, are you going to send it back? Right? Like, are you going to send it back and get something else? Like, what's up? Right? And it sparked this wonderful conversation with all of us at the table about what you do when you get something at a restaurant, for example, that you don't care for. Right. And I started talking about the importance of if you ordered something and it's not what you expected or it's not to your liking, it's okay to send it back. Now, I know many of us, we have mixed views on this, right? So one person at the table was like, I never send food back, never, ever, ever, because I'm worried that somebody's going to do something to my food. And I'm like, completely understandable. Like that's a completely understandable opinion, right? Like, I don't want anybody to get mad at me for sending the food back. I don't want my food to come back with some foolishness in it. And so I never send food back. And I was like, I get it. However, here's my point. Whether you send this drink back, this food back or not, and today it's up to you. But here's the point that I'm trying to make. And the point that I was trying to make was, when we receive things that are not to our standard, that are not to our liking, and we make the decision not to say anything about it, which means we've decided to accept a substitute, inevitably what happens and what this can lead to over time is settling, right? And so what happens is we get into the practice of accepting something that we did not order or something that is below our quality standard. And we accept something that's below our quality standard, and we begin to do that repeatedly. So not just out to dinner or out to lunch, right? But we begin to accept jobs and roles and responsibilities that's not quite what we were looking for. We begin to accept friends and partners that don't quite make the list, right? We begin to accept our health. Like, okay, I guess I don't want to be on any medications, but I guess one isn't that bad, right? We begin to accept things that are not that bad, that are not the worst, that are not as bad as they can be. And that becomes a habit, and that eventually results in settling. And so when we make a habit of substitutions, I was telling everybody at the table, I said, especially I know a lot of women who do this. I specifically, coach women, a lot of older Black women who have settled in certain areas of their lives. And now they're in their 50s and 60s and trying to figure out how to undo that habit of never sending anything back. Never sending anything back. And I was like, sending something back has nothing to do with your attitude. It has nothing to do with being derogatory. It has nothing to do with being mean or nasty. That's not what I'm advocating. You get to be kind and still not be satisfied with what you received. So a lot of times we look at sending stuff back or returning something as, ruffling feathers or, being mean or, rejecting, whatever we think, whatever meaning we attach to it. It's just simply, this is not what I want. Y'all, I remember this was many, many years ago, many years. Y'all remember Payless Shoe Store? Malika said, I'm always return to sender with food. Yes. Does anybody remember Payless Shoe Store? Well, I mean, I was super young, but I remember going to Payless Shoe Store, right? And I remember being in the store and this person in front of me, they were returning a pair of shoes and they said, I just don't like them. I don't like the way they fit. I don't like the way they, I wore them and I don't want them. And I remember being like, oh, we can do that. I remember because I thought returns had to be like something was wrong with it. Like I thought returns meant that it had to be like damaged or too small, too big. But I never remember this lady in Payless shoe store taught me that you can return stuff strictly because you don't like it. Like that can be the beginning and the end. And so I never forgot that. And I remember a couple years ago, when I bought my house, I had, I was buying stuff for it and stuff, and I bought a blanket from Target. And I got the blanket home and I put it on my bed and I slept under it a couple times. And I was like, this blanket is itchy. It was like itchy. I was like, this is really itchy. It's not comfortable. I can only like use it if I got a sheet in between me and a blanket because it doesn't feel good on my body. And I was like, I don't like this. And the old me would have been like, well, I've bought it and I've used it, so I can't take it back. Like that was the old me. I bought it and I used it, so I can't take it back. But I was like, absolutely not. I want my money back because I'm just not satisfied with the quality of the product. It has nothing to do, there's nothing wrong with it. I also don't have a plan to repackage it and act like it's never been used. Y'all, I took that blanket back to Target and I returned it with complete honesty and audacity. I was like, yeah, I slept with this blanket and it doesn't feel good and I like to return it. And there was no problem. They got to damage it out or whatever they got to do. But the company, whoever was the maker of the blanket, they had just made what I deemed to be an inferior product based on my preferences. And I returned it and it just was what it was. And so the second way you begin to redefine yourself and start being more visible is you stop settling. You stop settling. We have to stop settling. We have to stop settling for things that are below our preference. We have to stop settling for things that we did not order. We have to stop settling for things that we did not expect. Now, it's very important to note that you, in order to stop settling, you have to have standards, you have to have quality control, and you have to be willing to do some uncomfortable things in order to maintain your standards. Here's what I mean. Are you willing to be alone? Are you willing to be single? Like, are you willing to go without until you find what you really want? That's what I mean. Like, there has to be certain things that you're willing to do in order to maintain your standards. Like, the world is not going to maintain your standards for you. You have to have standards, and then you have to enforce your standards, right? You have to teach people how to treat you. And so some of us, we accept substitutes because we're unwilling to do the things that's required to maintain our standards. Like, you're unwilling to return a used blanket to Target. And so you rather live below your standards because you don't want to be perceived a certain way. Like, you're not willing to send that food back or advocate for yourself in that restaurant. You'll just accept the bland salad and the below par vegetables because you weren't willing to advocate for yourself and demand inclusion when y'all was making dinner plans, right? Like, in order for you to maintain a standard, there's got to be some things you're willing to do that may be uncomfortable, like speak up, like say no, like walk away, like go to a store in front of people and be like, unfortunately, this is not what I expected and I would like a full refund. Like, for some of you guys, this stuff is going to be uncomfortable, but this is how you redefine yourself. You establish standards and then you enforce the standard. And don't hear words like enforced and demand and think I mean being mean or aggressive. I'm super kind, super kind. It has nothing to do with having an attitude. Like, let me tell you something. And somebody put this in the chat for me. Settling don't make you nice. Somebody put that in the chat for me. Settling does not make you nice. Like, you're not a nice person just because you decide to keep the tofu curry that you don't really like at the restaurant. That don't make you nice. And it doesn't make you a mean person to send it back. Settling does not make you nice. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm just not going to worry about it. I just won't buy it again. What? Thank y'all. Thank you, Ujo. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Wanda. Like, we got to be careful with thinking sending something back or saying no thank you or breaking up with a friend or breaking up with a partner or turning down a job that they were kind and, well, I done went through all the interviews and I don't want to waste these people's time, so I just went along with it. That don't make you a good person. Settling does not make you nice. Settling does not make you a good person. It just means you settled. What it does is it trains you for unfulfillment later. Repeatedly settling for things that's not your first choice is a training ground for unfulfillment. You're literally training yourself to be unfulfilled, because every time you settle for something that wasn't the first choice, you just to make the other people happy, you then have to reconfigure your whole life to fit into a circle when you were supposed to be in the square. And so it makes it inconvenient for you. You inconvenience your own life when you constantly settle for something that wasn't your first choice. It doesn't make you a good person. Like, it don't make you better than anybody. I'm not saying you're not a good person, but it don't make you better because you settled. It doesn't make you nice because you settled. It just trains you for unfulfillment. That's all it does. So if you want to start redefining yourself, if you want to become more visible, establish standards, enforce the standard, and stop settling. Start sending stuff back. I ordered some wallpaper. Y'all know I love wallpaper. So I ordered some wallpaper like 2 weeks ago for another wall in my house, and it came, and I hired somebody to come install it, and she got there to install it, and I had accidentally bought the wrong kind of wallpaper. I wanted peel and stick. I didn't want the kind like this that you got to like put the adhesive on, right? And so she got there and she's like, now I had told her before she got there that it was peel and stick, because I thought it was peel and stick, because I had ordered 2 different wallpapers at one time, and I thought they both, well, the first one came, it was peel and stick, and I thought I had did the same with the second, and I accidentally hadn't. And I remember, like, listen, she was like, so she got there and drove over an hour, y'all, because I remember she was late, by the way, below my standard, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see how she do. So she was over an hour late. She had told me that she was over an hour away when we was messaging. I had an appointment and everything, but you know, things happen. Sometimes previous appointments go over. You got to show people grace the first time. And so she was over an hour late. So this young lady done drove over an hour. She brought all her equipment into my house, ladder, all the stuff she needs to install this wallpaper. And I'm downstairs in my office in a meeting, and she's upstairs preparing to install the wallpaper. And then she messages me and says, this is not peel and stick. You know, this requires adhesive. I don't have any with me. Do you want me to go to Home Depot and get some? And I'm like, well, will that mess the walls up? Because I want to peel and stick so that I could peel it off whenever I want to, and the wall will still be intact. And she was like, no, this will, if I buy adhesive, it will mess the walls up. And I was like, no, we can't mess the walls up, so you can't do the job, unfortunately, right? Now, imagine someone who has a little bit of people pleasing in their system, and they in this exact same scenario, right? They might have been like, oh my God, she just drove over an hour. Oh my God, like, I bought the wrong wallpaper. I don't want to send that back. I don't want to, waste her time, most importantly. So maybe I'll just let her install it, and I'll clean it up on the back end, or I'll fix the walls whenever it's time to come down or whatever. And I was like, oh no, don't do the job. Like, no, thank you. Now, out of a courtesy, I still actually compensated her for her time. I'm like, just charge me for 1 hour and we'll figure this out again. I'm going to go back and I'm going to order the right wallpaper, right? But I'm not settling. This is not what I wanted. And it was my fault. I accidentally bought the wrong thing, right? I apologize, like you do when you make mistakes. I offered to compensate her for her time. and she left. You done drove over an hour. I apologize. She had to pack up all her equipment, her ladder, and everything. I had her take her shoes off. She had to get her whole life together, pack everything up. And we're going to have to do this again another day. Matter of fact, she's scheduled on my calendar in 2 days on Wednesday. We're going to try this again. I ordered the right wallpaper. I rebooked her and she's coming back. But again, I'm not settling. I didn't want my walls messed up. It was unfortunate that she had to come from so far and all it is and took up space where maybe she could have been with another client. And I tried to make up for that. But neither one, I didn't have to settle. Y'all know what I'm saying? And so don't make a habit out of that, because you will make a habit out of being unfulfilled or creating more work for yourself or beating yourself up because you know this is not what I wanted. So start enforcing the standard. Start enforcing the standard. Last one. So that was one. That was 1 and 2. Let me take a sip. And let's get into this final one. So number 1, you have to start taking up space. Number 2, you have to stop accepting substitutes, okay? Or accepting not that bad. Okay. Number 3, let me tell y'all something, man. It's nothing like messing around and getting a great surprise. I went to church yesterday and I didn't know that we were having a guest speaker. And I also, and this is not my normal service. I normally go to an earlier service, but I had an appointment. And so I had to go to a later service, right? Ooh, child. So I went to a later service and the guest speaker, so my regular pastor was not preaching yesterday. He had a guest speaker, y'all. And guess who the guest speaker was? It was such a treat. It was Al Sharpton, right? Reverend Al Sharpton. And let me tell you something. I have never heard Reverend Al Sharpton in person, preach and talk that talk. But baby, now y'all know me. Those of you who know me, you know I'm all about front row behavior. So I'm in church. I had got there on time, but the first 2 rows were already filled up. So I was in the 3rd row, but I was still super close, right? In the 3rd row. Because I always go to the front of the room. I don't play that back of the room foolishness. And so I'm all the way in the front taking up space, baby. And honey, my pastor came out and introduced Reverend Al Sharpton. And I was like, yes. Yes. So it was so good. But the final lesson comes from Al Sharpton, okay, for today on how to redefine yourself and become more visible and start making your voice heard. He says something that I could resonate with so much. So, Reverend Al Sharpton, he's a civil rights activist, right? And so he said, but he's also a reverend. And so he gets invited to churches to speak all the time. And he said, I'll go to churches, be invited to speak. And they will often say to me, we know you do the civil rights stuff, but can you just leave that out and just stick to the book, stick to the Bible? Don't talk all the political stuff. Don't talk about civil rights. Don't talk about the work you're doing out there. Just stick to the Bible. And he said, I can serve God and do what's right in society at the same time. I can serve God and do what's right in society at the same time. Listen to me very closely. The 3rd reason your good has become the enemy of your great. The 3rd reason you're walking around here invisible and unheard, even though you have a voice, a story, and an opinion. The 3rd reason you are not where you want to be when it comes to your contribution to society is because you keep compromising your values and your belief to make other people comfortable. He said, I can serve God and do what's right for society at the same time. He goes into spaces and sometimes they ask him to compromise or water down his beliefs and his opinions. He said, I will not show up anywhere and not talk about civil rights. It's what I do. It's a part of who I am. I am both things at the same time, and I am not going to turn off one of them for you. And I can relate to this so much because I told you guys this at the end of our summer 2024 challenge. So at the end of all of our challenges, we send out review forms and Somebody wrote on one of our 30-day vegan challenge review forms, don't talk about God so much. I ain't never been more convicted about talking about God than I was in that moment. Like, don't bring all that over here. Like, no. You don't come back over here. Because what you're not going to do is convince me to water down what I believe in. You're not going to convince me to stop talking about something that has played such a huge role in where I am and who I am today. How dare you suggest that I be anything less than who I am? Like, I'm for who I'm for, and I'm not for who I'm not for. And never on God's green earth will I compromise that for you. There are several other individuals in the marketplace who are working to help people get healthy. I do not have a monopoly. So guess what? Go somewhere else. And some of you need to get go somewhere else in your vocabulary. We must stop watering down and compromising our beliefs and our values for the comfort of others. Like, soon as somebody tell you try and sell something, or you got an offer, or you're a speaker and you tell somebody your rates, and as soon as somebody say it's too expensive or whatever, you want to change your rate. As soon as you tell somebody you plant-based and they want you to come and talk about health in their space, and they say, but can you not do the plant-based stuff? Can you not do the vegan stuff? You out here considering it. Like, as soon as you tell somebody what you believe in and what you don't believe in, and as soon as they express any resistance or objections to that, you bet not go sit down somewhere and reconsider. I've built my entire business, but most importantly, my quality of life on being whole food, plant-based. You're not going to shut me down. And God, I've been God's co-pilot the whole time. You're not going to shut him down. Like, there's just some things that you got to stop allowing. You cannot compromise your values. You cannot compromise your beliefs for the sake of others. Reverend Al Sharpton said it, and I co-signed it. And I'm here to tell you guys, like, it is one of the quickest ways to feel less like yourself. It is no worse feeling than saying yes to an opportunity that also required you to water down your beliefs. Don't do it. Like, don't ever build a business or personal brand off of that. Never. And I'm gonna tell you what that is. If it's something that you've considered or you've done, like if you in any space has ever muzzled your own beliefs or muzzled your own opinions because maybe you thought they were too radical, or maybe you thought that you weren't going to be accepted. Let me tell you essentially what that does. Okay. Because you've decided to water down yourself and mute yourself and muzzle yourself, it's evidence of a lack mindset. It's evidence of a lack mindset. For somebody to say, can you not talk about being vegan or being plant-based? We don't want to push that on people. Like you selling dope. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to push that on people. Or don't bring up God in your challenge. Like, that's doing too much. Or Lisa, you too aggressive. I'm like, well, y'all dying prematurely from stuff that was preventable. If anybody needs to be aggressive, it's me, because everybody before me have given you way too much rope. What do you mean? So, but imagine constantly getting feedback like, oh, she doing too much. She too aggressive. She too extreme. And I'm like, but let me get this straight. Being obese for 10 years is not extreme. Let me get this straight. Taking metformin or hydrochloride or insulin for 5 years is not extreme. I'm extreme because I said don't eat chicken and cheese, but you're not extreme for having to wear a device to sleep every night. Like, that's not, let me get that. Like God didn't give you that device. Man had to make a device to compensate. But you're telling me I'm extreme. You're not going to convince me. You're not going to convince me, especially when I have receipts to back me up. especially when I have in my personal Rolodex the real direct phone numbers of people for whom I've reversed their diabetes, for people for whom we've reversed their obesity, for people we've put cancer, somebody I wasn't fertile and now they're pregnant. I'm like, I got too many receipts. My way works. Your way ain't worked. You still unwell. How you gonna try and push your moderation way on me and it ain't even worked for you? The reason I'm pushing my way on you because it had worked. It has worked for hundreds of people before you. Do not let anybody muzzle you. Do not let any of these people behind these keyboards convince you that your way, your preference, your beliefs don't fit in somewhere. Go find the people for whom they fit. That's all. Go find the people for whom they fit. You are not going to convince me that I'm doing too much when I've been doing this much and it don't work for this many people, including myself. I'm leading from the front. Okay? And these people ain't guinea pigs. I was the first guinea pig. And then all I did is reverse engineered the magic on people who decided to trust me. So we're going to talk about God. And if you don't want to hear it, go find another challenge. I am not the only person promoting a plant-based lifestyle. But what you're not about to do is convince me to stop talking about God. And you guys have to stop letting people convince you to stop talking about what you believe in. Because all it is, if one, two, or five people, because here's a cheat code. The bigger you become, the bigger your audience becomes, the bigger your platform becomes, it's probably going to be more than one person that disagrees with you. The cat's out the bag. It's going to be more than one person that disagrees with you. And so if you let these 5 people convince you that maybe I should just talk about health in general. Maybe I shouldn't talk about plant-based, even though this plant-based lifestyle done saved my own life. Why are you scared of these people? You're going to be outnumbered. It's still way more people that eat meat than don't. You going to let them scare you? Like, what are you talking about? Like, come on now, God. There's always going to be opposition. But you going to let them convince you? You going to let now I'm about to come down somebody's street. You gonna let your faith tell you that it's wrong and immoral to charge people for your gift? Huh? You gonna let your spirit of service that says being in service means working for free, you gonna keep letting that reign supreme when you see all the rest of us around you monetizing our gift and giving it away for free? You ain't even got to choose one or the other. I give away for free like I'm doing right now, and I charge. But you going to let people who feel like you should work for free convince you to work for free when that ain't what you believe? Stop watering down your beliefs and your preferences. So the third way to redefine yourself, to become more visible, to stop being ignored, is to stop letting opposition convince you that your way is wrong. It's not. Reverend Al Sharpton said, I can serve God and do good for the society at the same time. And if that's not welcomed in your building, neither am I. Oh, I felt that in my spirit. I can't wait till we do. So in our last challenge in January, I told him, I said, hey, we're going to be talking about God. If you want to be here, get out now. And I'm going to tell y'all again in July, God comes up. He's the homie. He's my bestie. I can't help but talk about him. It's like my coach E.T. Y'all know he married. I think you can't go 2 speeches without E talking about his wife. That's his homie. That's his best friend. She's such a part of his life that she's in most of his stories. That's how God is for me. Everything I have today, I give him the favor. How dare you tell me to take him out of my challenge? I will take you out of my challenge 100 times over before I do that. So if you don't want me to talk about God, please send an email to hello@lisaangelsmith.com and we will happily provide you a refund if you were VIP. Because you think your money gonna stop me from... Are you nuts? Child Wanda done told me to sip. I probably done missed about 1,800 sips in the chat. I got upset. Let's review. And I got a bonus one for y'all today, but let's review. Three ways. Let me calm down. Three ways to redefine yourself, to stop being ignored, to make sure people are noticing you. If you have a voice, if you want to be a speaker, if you want to be a coach, if you have a voice, if you want to be in ministry and you want to share your story, but you historically have played the background, you historically have played small, you struggle with confidence, you struggle with courage, then these three things that I listed today, I need you to take heed. Pick one and get started. The first one was you got to start taking up space. And when people try and create space for you, you have to stop denying inclusion. No, that's too much. You don't have to do that for me. Yes, they do. Because you want to know why? Because you wouldn't have did it for yourself. So if you ain't going to create space for yourself and you're not going to allow other people to create space for you, how in the world do you expect to be able to spread your wings? Because you don't make extra effort for yourself. But when somebody else tries to, you deny that too. Like, dang, you fighting to stay small. That's crazy. Stop fighting to stay small. Okay. Number two, the second way that you begin to define yourself and make sure your voice is heard is you stop accepting substitutes. When something is not to your standard, you say so. The biggest takeaway from number two was accepting a substitute doesn't make you a nice guy. Right? Accepting anything less than your preference doesn't make you a good person, doesn't make you better than anybody else. It just means you walk away silently unhappy while we publicly satisfied. So it doesn't make you a better person or a nicer person to accept something less than your preference. All right. So stop accepting substitutes. If you don't want it, if you don't like it, send it back. That go for people, places, and things. Send them all back. All of them. Throw the whole ecosystem away. This ain't what I ordered. I didn't order you, that, none of it. Stop it. All right. And finally, the third way to do this thing is you have to stop watering down your preferences, your beliefs, especially if you live an alternative lifestyle. Like I'm a full-time entrepreneur that is alternative for a lot of people. People are like, no, you got to stay safe. So here you are thinking about quitting your job, thinking about starting that thing you want to start, thinking about going out on faith, thinking about trusting God. But then you got about 2.5 people around you like you crazy. You need them benefits. You need that security. You need that. And so you shouldn't do it. Now, I'm not saying they wrong. I'm saying you take that and you decide to never do anything. You don't even start the thing part-time and let it build up and grow to the revenue that allows you to leave the 9-to-5. You just decide to stay in the 9-to-5 and be unhappy because people disagree with your desires. That's crazy. So stop watering down your stuff for the opinions of others. Right? I don't want to talk about God here. Or I don't want to admit that God did this for me. Or I don't want to admit my beliefs. Or I don't want to tell people that, the power of plants, because everybody gonna say you shouldn't. And then people not gonna want to and then people not gonna agree with me. And then somebody gonna argue with me. Why y'all so afraid of opposition? Let me tell you something. If you want any type of business, whether you be a personal brand as a speaker, whether you build a business as a coach or a consultant, anything where you have a certain way that you do things that's not the standard quota, the way everybody else does it, there's going to be opposition. There's still people that comment to this day like, no, you shouldn't be eating soy. You shouldn't be eating peanuts. That's not you. People, you wrong about emotional intelligence. You wrong. Baby, that's why you got to go tonight and snuggle up with your conviction. Like y'all, some of y'all ain't cuddling up to y'all conviction enough for me. Like soon as one person say something, you like conviction, now I got to sleep on the couch and you sleeping upstairs. Do you know that anytime you build a personal brand or a business or, create intellectual property to put out in the marketplace, somebody not going to agree, somebody not going to like it. And then soon as that happens, all of a sudden your conviction got to sleep on the couch. No. You show up to this thing convicted. And that is not the same as being so bullheaded that you're not willing to hear people. Wow. You should still be able to have a healthy, spirited debate, meaning you do want to hear other people's point of view. You do want to know what the opposition is saying so that you can always question. If need to, you always question yourself. Like I check in with the research all the time because I never want to steer my people the wrong way. So I'm like, let me make sure this is still saying what it's saying. Let me still make sure this is doing what it's doing. Let me get out here and do my continuing education, my con ed, right? So I'm not suggesting that you're so bullheaded that your opinion can't be changed, but I'm also suggesting that you got to choose your battles and know that your opponent is just as convicted and well versed in the subject matter as you, and they're worthy of being. Everybody ain't worthy of the debate, right? And so you have to have discernment, but you can't be making your conviction sleep on the couch every time somebody slide into your comments and disagree with you. Now you're scared to show back up and be bold. You're scared to go on the next stage and talk your talk. You scared to go on that podcast and talk your talk. You don't want to introduce that in the church. Maybe they're not ready for that. Listen, I remember when my pastor called me and was like, we want you to come and run a health and wellness ministry and blah, blah, blah. Not one time did he even fix his lips to suggest that I don't do and talk about plant-based. He knew what it was, because I would have instantly be like, oh, well, no, thank you. It wouldn't be like, oh, well, I don't want to lose this opportunity. When you decide to compromise your beliefs because you're afraid of losing an opportunity, you have a lack mindset. That's evidence of a lack mindset. You think this opportunity is the last opportunity, and so you compromise your beliefs because you don't want to lose this opportunity. There's another church, another pastor where this one came from. If he don't want me talking about the power of plants in his church, I'll talk about it in the next one. I don't have a lack mindset. I don't think in lack, but I'm not going to compromise myself. I'm not doing it. Let y'all get wind that I'm out here teaching health, but I ain't necessarily suggesting plant-based. Come on now, I've been cloned. If you ever peep that, I've been cloned, call the authorities. Okay? So those are the 3 ways. Let me give y'all the bonus one so we can get out of here. Here's the final one. I had one more thing that I wanted to share with you guys as I thought about it. So I was talking to a client, one of my private clients, 2 weeks ago. We were in a session and we were talking about this concept. I asked her a question. And I asked her, we were talking about what she wanted moving into this next season of her life. And we were kind of spelling out what that looks like. And I asked her, I said, have you ever prayed for that? I'm like, have you ever prayed for exactly what you just told me? She like, no, I haven't. And I was like, well, why not? Like, why have you, like, in your prayers, why are you being modest? Right? And the topic of gratitude came up. And we were talking about how sometimes gratitude for a lot of us equals that not desiring more. None of us, especially, like, I know my Black women, because I am one, and that's who I mostly service, right? So that's just who I'm always talking to or talking through, right? I know a lot of us, we understand the importance of gratitude, and none of us want to get caught being ungrateful. Am I right about it? Just somebody put right in the chat if I'm right about it. Nobody wants to get caught being ungrateful. Like you don't even want God to get a whiff that you being ungrateful for what you already have or what he's giving you, right? And so what I've noticed is that a lot of us have equated wanting more with being ungrateful for what you currently have. Thank y'all. Okay. Thank y'all for co-signing. So a lot of us have equated wanting more. So to desire more, to desire bigger, to desire to go farther, like to desire a partner who's more aligned, right? Not just the one you got, but maybe you want a more aligned partner. Sometimes when we want more, we want better or whatever it is, that can be seen as being ungrateful for what you currently have. And nobody in God's streets wants to get caught being ungrateful. So when I asked her if she had ever prayed for what she really wanted, she told me no. And as we dug deeper and began to excavate why not, we landed on the fact that I need to be grateful for what I have, and I don't want to rattle the boat with God and appear to be ungrateful. And so here's the final thing I'll tell you guys who are maybe not quite where you want to be. Maybe you're not quite where you want to be. You've overplayed your gratitude card. Now, here's what I mean. I'm going to explain it. You've overplayed your gratitude card. And what that means is, guys, there's no such thing as being too grateful, but there is a such thing as using gratitude to suppress your true desires. I'm going to say it again. There's no such thing as being too grateful. You can never overexpress your gratitude. It's no such thing. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's no such thing as being too grateful, but there is a such thing as using gratitude to suppress your true desires. Because I get it. You don't want to get caught being, sounding, or appearing ungrateful. Like that's the cardinal sin for us, right? But nothing requires you to settle, not even gratitude. Nothing requires you to settle, not even gratitude. Gratitude and wanting more can coexist. Now, that's probably about to be earth shattering for some of y'all. Lisa, how can you be grateful and still want more? It's called being gratefully unsatisfied. That's a real place and people live there. I'll be your neighbor. Okay? You can be gratefully unsatisfied. So if you need to adopt that in your spirit, put it in the chat right now. I am gratefully unsatisfied. Say it out loud if you listen to this on a replay. I am gratefully unsatisfied, because the first step is admitting it. Because how will you ever pray for what you really want if you're ashamed of it? If you're ashamed of wanting more, knowing you ain't happy where you are, but feeling like you're feeling pressure to be grateful for what you have, you all that can happen in one pot. You can be totally grateful for what you have, but you can also not be satisfied where you are. And then look at this. You then get to ask for what you really want. Oh, where's Zoom at when you need it with the fireworks? Pew, 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 pew. I am gratefully unsatisfied. Lisa, it's the house next door to you for sale. I'm moving into the neighborhood. Gratefully unsatisfied is a real place, and I can live there. Got a zip code and everything. Ujo, thank you for my fireworks. Right? So listen, what's the homework, Lisa? Go start asking for what you really want and start letting gratefully unsatisfied be in your spirit. Okay? I am gratefully unsatisfied, because how in the world will you start showing up, being more visible, making sure your voice is heard, if you're just sitting in a place where I should just be happy for what I have? I don't want to rustle any feathers. I don't want to draw any attention to myself. Yet and still you want to impact the world. Yet and still you have a splash that you want to make. Yet and still there's a injustice or cause in the world that you want to be on the forefront of. That's going to require you to speak up. That's going to require you to be convicted. That's going to require you not to settle for anything less than the best. It's going to require some stuff from you. And so if you have made a habit of not asking for what you really want, because you feel like all your prayer should just be about saying what you're grateful for, what you do have, you're going to struggle with this piece. Okay. That is it for today. Listen, guys, speaking of gratefully unsatisfied, we actually just opened up our application for my mastermind, Clarity. This would be 3.0, our third iteration of Clarity. We open up Clarity just once a year. We open it up once a year. So the application is now open. I have pinned the application here in the chat for you guys. Check out Clarity. It's my mastermind for current and aspiring speakers, coaches, and consultants who need a strategy for building their personal brand, but they're also looking for community and courage. Okay, so if you need strategy, community, and courage, then Clarity is for you. So the application is pinned right here in the comments. And if you're listening to this live on the Plan Protocol podcast, or should I say the replay, it's going to be in the show notes. Clarity, the mastermind, is now open. So get your applications in, and then we'll book a suitability interview, tell you all about the community, and see if it's a good fit for you to move forward. So that's Clarity, the mastermind. I hope this was good for you guys today. Drop your takeaways in the chat. Drop your takeaways in the chat before we hop off. Susan said, woosah. Amen. Drop your takeaways in the chat today. And let me hear what resonated for you the most today. Which one do you need to do to start redefining yourself in the world? Do you need to start taking up space? Do you need to stop accepting substitutes? Do you need to stop watering down your values? Or do you need to stop being only grateful and never asking for more? Tell me which one was for you today. Rhonda said it's okay to be gratefully unsatisfied. Yes. Karen said stand firm on your standards. Yes. Accepting less than your preference does not make you the nice guy. 100%. Ujo said, cuddle with your convictions. You feel me? Not in them Target blankets, though. Don't cuddle with that, Ujo. We don't go to Target no more anyway, so yeah, you ain't heard it from me. And just stop accepting substitutes. Yes, Regina, take up all your space. Amen. Amen. Okay, so good. Give me one or two more takeaways, y'all. And click that link. It takes a few minutes. I say maybe 7 minutes or less to fill out our application for Clarity Mastermind. If you're interested in being in an ecosystem that we're talking about this stuff all the time, working through imposter syndrome, figuring out a blueprint for putting your voice out there on stages and getting coaching clients and creating a coaching offer, then you want to be in Clarity. You want to be in Clarity for sure. Yes. Susan said, dumbing down is not an option. Malika, express your desires. Malika. I love it. Okay. This was great. All right, guys. So that's it for me today. I'll be back here next Monday, same time, 10 a.m. EST. This has been your forever voice in your head, Lisa A. Smith. Until next Monday. Bye, y'all.